Welcome to part two of our interview with taxi member Elna Myburg, this month's passenger profile. I'm going to read you her bio once again so you're familiar with who she is when we get back into the questions. South African native Elna Myburg moved to the United States in 1998 and is a versatile composer and a classically trained pianist who writes and produces instrumental music for television and film with an emphasis on piano-driven styles. Her music can be heard on CBS, the CW, MTV, Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, Univision, Fox, Freeform, Nickelodeon, and many, many more networks all over the world. She started her taxi journey with solo jazz piano and got several placements in TV and film. She's since branched out into orchestral, electronic, world, ambient, experimental EDM, and more, and still loves to use her acoustic grand piano as her foundation. Elna's had many tracks signed with production music libraries through connections she's made through Taxi, and she's currently working on several albums for libraries in the US, England, Israel, and Germany. Some recent placements include several placements on The Morning Show with Jennifer Aniston, Tell Me a Story on CBS, Dynasty, Madam Secretary, Siesta Key, Top Elf, Chronicus on Univision, as well as in the FIFA Women's World Cup live broadcast and some great placements in European TV shows as well. She works from her studio in Houston, and she also runs an independent piano teaching studio. So welcome back to part two, Elna, and thanks for doing this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So I remember where we left off at the end of part one, just so everybody knows. We got bounced off because of a connectivity issue, but we're back now, and we were actually talking about miking grand pianos.
That's right.
And I was telling you how some very generous colleague of mine back in the day told me don't bother miking the entire width of the piano if you're only playing stuff in the two middle octaves, which is most of the time where things happen. So always a good idea as an engineer to have the keyboard player play you, say, give me a range, show me how far down and how far up you're going on that keyboard so you can place your mics there. If you think that doing that is the standard that you should use all the time on a grand piano, not true. Anyway, there's Mikey's engineering tip for the day. Now let's get back to the Elna part of the interview. How often do you write and produce new music?
Oh my goodness, all the time. I'm kind of a workaholic, but it's my passion. So I am constantly in my studio. I just love what I do. So if I'm not teaching, I'm composing. So I would say I work on something new every day, definitely. Wow. And I work on, I know some people want to finish one thing before they move on to the next. So I will work on 2 or 3 tracks at the same time, different genres. It keeps it interesting. So I will be mixing the one day and then start my sketch for the next one on that same day, and then finish up, the recording of another. So I'm always working on different things.
And do you find that over time you've gotten to be much faster as far as your engineering and production chops?
Yes.
Obviously, familiarity.
Yes, I've learned some shortcuts. Yes, so sometimes I do things the hard way, and yes. So I've learned about some shortcuts, and definitely, the more you do something, the better you can become at it, and the faster you can work. So definitely.
What are some of your favorite sound libraries that you use?
Oh my goodness, I have so many. And of course, I'm horrible with names. So when I have to come up with it, I know the Albion string library is definitely one of my favorites. I love that. But I also use a lot of the sample libraries that came with the software that I'm using. So sometimes people will listen to my stuff and say, did you really just use whatever is came with the software? And I do. But yes, I do use a lot of others. You caught me by surprise with that one.
Sorry.
I should have put it down because, yes.
It's all right. I make my children wear name tags to the dinner table. I get it. And what do you use for your DAW? Are you using Logic?
Yes, I'm using Logic Pro 10. Yes.
I hear that from so many Logic users, and honestly, I'm an old mics, wires, and analog guy, but a couple of years ago I got Logic for my current laptop just to get familiar with it. I've literally never done a session on a DAW before. So for the last couple of years, I'll putz around on it, and I'm amazed. Although I haven't used the sound side of the the samples, I've used a lot of the stock plugins, like the compressors, of which there are like five or six, and three or four out of the five or six sound amazing to me.
Right.
Some of the old like Neve 1073 stuff, just I'm amazed what they put in there for $200.
I know.
You
It's
almost don't need to look elsewhere.
exactly. They have fabulous synthesizers too. That you can, you can just change any sound you wish and samplers and all that. So I feel that I can use what's on there a lot, and by changing things and making it sound new. So definitely. But I do have a lot of outside libraries as well. And the one that I use for the Middle Eastern music is, I think it's just called the Middle Eastern Library. Um, that's really, really good. And so, yes, well,
Appropriately named. Um, Reverb is another thing that I noticed that a lot of people who are new to engineering and production, it's like, wow, that reverb sounds so rich and it sounds so cool. And of course, everything sounds better with reverb. So people tend to overuse it in the beginning and then they start listening to what other people have done and back off. Was that any sort of challenge for you, learning to use reverb or delays, or did it come pretty naturally?
I think what was the challenge for me is to when doing recording my acoustic piano, because you have to have your room in mind, right? You have to really
Mhm.
say how big is your room, what are the acoustics like. So I tend to put too much on that, and then people would say, the piano sounds so far off, and I was thinking, well, that's strange, and then you know. Put less reverb on it. And I don't think we need reverb for everything. My string library has a lot of reverb on it already because of where it was recorded. And so if you put more on it, it's just going to be too much. So, you have to, I think we tend to overdo it for sure. So,
Um, One more thing about reverb, and this is just another one of my engineering tips. Back in the day, I was one of the first people to use a Lexicon 224 digital reverb, which was probably the second or third digital reverb ever invented. And of course, now everybody's got plugins for that, as well as the 480, which ultimately became more popular. So here's a little engineering tip, folks. For talking about room and for piano, I always found that if I was doing like a solo piano concert type thing, as opposed to cocktail jazz, which would have a different kind of room, and it'd probably be a pretty dead room because it's in a restaurant, a little more intimate sounding. But if you want to get a great hall sound, go with the small concert hall on a Lexicon 480 XL and give it a longer decay time than what the stock offering is that it automatically comes up with, because you get the early reflections of like 1,000 foot or 1,000 seat hall, like a real intimate concert hall. You get those nice early reflections, but if you give it like 2.5 to 3 seconds of decay time, then it sounds like you're in a 5,000 seater, but still has kind of the initial bite of the smaller hall. So anyway, just a personal preference of mine. I thought
right,
I'd pass that
right.
along.
Definitely, and you're right, because I do what I basically do on my acoustic piano for recordings, or cocktail jazz or classical, and definitely using reverb differently for those two genres for sure.
Absolutely. All right, let's shift gears a bit now and talk about relationships, professional business relationships with the companies that you work with. So many musicians have grown up. A lot of it is kind of like old wives' tales. Just people say, "Oh, everybody in the industry is out to screw you." And it breaks my heart because I know many of the owners of the companies that we run listings for. They are musicians as well, which you mentioned before. Many of them are composers. They're My experience is they're not in business to screw people. I
Right.
can't think of a nicer way to say it in short right here. But what has your experience been when you're contacted by one of these companies? Has it been easy to work with them? Do you like them? Are they professional? That sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. Everybody I've built connections with is wonderful. They are wonderful people. They really care about their musicians. I think the whole industry is very kind of laid back and casual, but you want to be businesslike. You don't want to bug them, with tons of emails and that kind of thing. But yes, I've really never found anybody that are unpleasant to work with, or anybody who I feel is not giving me a good deal, or who just wants to use my music and not pay me for it. Never. So
Right.
everybody I'm working with is wonderful, wonderful people. Uh, a lot of people. The guy you mentioned, the Middle Eastern guy, a great sense of humor,
Yeah.
and just really, really fun to work with, and they really care about the musicians and building a relationship. I mean, some of the library owners Skyped with me, because they wanted to know me better, and I don't think you're going to do that if you want to, you know, if you're not an upright person, you want to screw that person over. You're not
Yeah.
going to do. Yeah,
It's all right
yeah,
to use the vernacular. We're talking to a
yeah.
bunch of
No, I
musicians.
was looking for a better word, but
I was too.
I was like,
I tried to look professional there for a minute, but didn't quite pull it off. Yeah, I would say the same thing about the library owners. I know they want to take care of their composers. On the other hand, they don't want to do a lot of hand holding.
yeah.
They will a little bit in the beginning, but just a little bit. Have you found that to be, you know, a key to your success in dealing with them on a business level? It's like, okay, in the beginning, we get to know each other. I get to know how quickly you like me to respond to things. You get to know their personalities, their business culture, all that sort of stuff. Some people, I believe, hang on to that and go, oh, they love me. I've got a relationship with them. And they try to turn them into their personal mentor or family member to the point where it becomes a little too much work for the library owner, and it probably hurts the musician in the end. So, do you have any tips on finding the balance between being professional friends with them, colleagues with them, but not taking it too far?
Right, yes. So I've had some library owners asking me things, to change things in my music, saying, okay, bring this up, bring this down, and they ask me technical stuff that I didn't know anything about. So the first thing that I would do is I'll say, great, absolutely, yes, I will do it, without knowing anything about it. And I
Right.
will then find out from somebody else, or, I will learn by watching videos or whatever, and try to correct that by myself, before asking them. I have no idea how to do this. Can you help me? And so you're right. So you don't want to bug them. And yes, they're not your teacher. And like you said, your mentor. A lot of them are very, very helpful. And if you really say, look, I tried this, but do you have any tips for me? A lot of them are. I actually work for the one who is actually a lecturer at a university. He loves to. It's the guy who was one of the developers of Logic Pro. He loves to share his knowledge. He would really he would tell you, if you have any questions, I'll make you a little video. And so he really
Wow.
wants to do that. I think on others, some of them are not. They want to work with people who know what they're doing. We all have to start somewhere. You're not going to know everything, but I know some people want to work with seasoned composers and producers who know what they want. They don't want to work with people who are just starting up. But you do get people who actually it really differs from person to person.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm glad that you brought up the topic. Probably 15% of taxis listings will have a paragraph in there. And the paragraph changes a little bit depending on the company, but basically what it says is we really prefer to work with people who are experienced composers or experienced in the ways of production music libraries. Our members get very offended by that. They feel like I'm being excluded. Hey, I'm paying taxi to have the, availability to pitch to all these things. The companies have asked us to do that because some people who are new and don't know the drill, and they get contacted by a library that says, okay, it's a pretty standard deal. We get the 100% of the publisher share, you keep 100% of the writer's share, If there's a sync fee, we split it 50-50, which, there are variations on that theme, but that's kind of the ballpark that most of the deals are in. And some people who took a music law course or music business course 20 years ago in college hear that and go, you want 100% of the publisher's share? What a ripoff. I would never do that deal. And it's the library is like, man, why did you submit number
Right,
one?
right.
And I don't want to sign an exclusive deal when the listing said exclusive in all caps. So
Yeah,
I feel for the library owners. I understand they do a lot of due diligence, which a lot of people don't know before they reach out to
right.
somebody. If they
Exactly.
hear a piece by Elna Myburg, they're going to go online and they're going to look at your history. They're going to see, oh, look at that in her bio. She signed to a bunch of other libraries. Therefore, she's credible, and I'm even more interested in her now. And if they make, after doing that due diligence, they'll even go check like the ASCAP or BMI databases and look at all that historical stuff, then reach out. And if the person on the other end says, I have no desire to be in an exclusive library, the
Yeah,
library owners rightfully get pretty ticked off about that. Say, but the listing said
yes,
exclusive. Why did you pitch to it? So
exactly. Yeah,
I get it, but it's still a frustrating thing for our members. So we're trying to solve that problem.
right, right.
Um, do you have any broad general advice for people who are just recently starting out and they're confused, it's unfamiliar territory, they know what they want to accomplish, but it just seems like there's so much out there. It's like I have to understand the business side, I have to understand the engineering production side, I've got to understand the compositional side. Any advice for newbies?
Wow. You have to learn new things, and the beauty of it nowadays, there's so much available out there. I know your company offers so much. You know, watch those videos, learn, and then a lot of people online are amazing at what they do, and they offer all this free advice. You can just watch the videos. You can learn so much. You can buy a course like I did. That was amazing. And I've learned a lot through that. But all the information they need is out there. It is so amazing what's available to us nowadays. So there's no excuse not to learn those new things. So just keep on learning. I'm still learning, and I will never stop learning because I know a ton about music. I'm catching up with the technical side of things. And I know enough about the business side to make a success. But yes, that just keep on learning and make use of resources. So many people just don't make use of it, and they have all those resources available. And I think they have to just make use of it.
Well, that's great advice, and I'm just so proud to have you as a taxi member. Congratulations on your ongoing and continued success. The
Thank you.
fact that it's always growing, and your music is great. Why don't you tell everybody where they can go listen to you online?
Well, so I do have a website, but I started to self-release, albums,
Right,
not for film and television. We were talking about how, you want to show off what you can do, but it's hard to do in film and TV music because
right.
it's more about the production than your cool riffs that you can do. So I decided to, and this is really more a hobby for me because I don't have an agent or record deal with that, but I decided to, just for fun, release my own jazz slash EDM or jazz dance, just jazz fusion CDs, a little bit of chill hop, lo-fi jazz. And I've done 2 albums, and they can go to elnamyburgmusic.com. And I have, it's a growing website. I still have to do a lot on it. So I don't have my film and TV music on there because I really prefer to go through publishers and,
Right.
so I don't promote that on my site, but I do have. I'm about to release another album of jazz music because I really wanted to. That's where you can do whatever you want to, right? And you can show off what you can do. And so that's what I'm doing with my self-release albums.
Also, is the music on your taxi homepage? Can it be listened to publicly, or do you keep it private?
I think I'm keeping that private. Yes, yes.
All right. And so once again, folks, to go to elnamyburg.com, it's ELNA
by BU, BU
Myburg. Right.
in music. Yes, so elnamyburgmusic.com. Yes.
Okay, great. Well, Elna, this has been a great interview. You're incredibly informative. I'm very, very proud of what you've done, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for taking the time to do this with me. I think a lot of your fellow members will benefit from it, and I hope to see you at the Road Rally coming up November 3rd, 4th, and well, it's registration starts on November 3rd. The actual rally is November 4th, 5th, and 6th here in Los Angeles. I hope you can come out and join us. Would love to meet you in
Absolutely.
person.
I'd love to.
And
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Michael.